the body is maintained. You are supposed to take a meal just before dawn. And then you are just supposed to break the fast very early. And then so that to make sure that you do not get hurt physiologically or physically. So the big vision, there is a big vision in this month of Ramadan, and a leader must have a big vision. So this is the first lesson that a leader learns from Ramadan. Now, we'll discuss leadership lessons from Ramadan, and although we say leadership lessons, but these apply to followers because followers are like their leaders. It's a saying of Sayyidina Ali, كَمَا تَكُونُ يُوَلَّ عَلَيْكُمْ. The way you are is the way your leaders. You know, you are like your leaders. So we have seen one lesson. It is having a big vision beyond what is seen. The second leadership lesson we derive from Ramadan is the lesson of self-control. A leader must have self-control. A leader must be able to control his or her emotions and passions. Now, Ramadan teaches us to control the two strongest passions, emotions, and drives and instincts, which are food and sex. These two are necessary for survival of humans. They have to eat in order to live, and they need to reproduce. So these are the two most powerful instincts that we have got. Now, when we are in Ramadan, they are the two that we control, because for 12 hours, from dawn until sunrise until sunset, we cannot have any of those two. Although there is a drive within us to have one of them, we may be very hungry, but we need to control ourselves. So this for 30 days is training for you to control yourself. Now, this control is voluntary. It's not that somebody is forcing you, it's voluntary. So that's a great lesson. So this lesson in self-control and self-restraint extends from food and sex to all other human endeavors. Because once you go through 30 months of training in self-control, you can control yourself regarding anything else. That's why it's not a surprise that the Prophet, may Allah be pleased with him, said, "Man sama Ramadana imanan wa ihtisaban, ghufira lahu ma taqaddama min dhanbi." When you fast the month of Ramadan with the true belief and expectation of reward, you are going to be forgiven all your previous sins. This is because the lessons you learn from fasting, 30 days of fasting, are so great in self-control that you cannot go back to doing bad things, and God will forgive you what you did in the past. And that's of God's kindness that this lesson and training is repeated every 11 months. Maybe this year you get the training, along the way you may forget. Then next year comes and you go through the training again. So the Prophet said that if you guarantee for me what is between the beards, you know, the two beards, the lower and upper beard, this means the mouth, and between the legs, he says, I guarantee paradise for you. So this is because the self-control in Ramadan will teach us to control these two passions, these two instincts, and they are the most powerful instincts. If you can control them, then you control everything. So Ramadan, for a leader and for a follower, is training in control of emotions and passions. Now, a leader who cannot control his passions and his emotions cannot be a good leader. One of the things is to see the bigger picture. For example, as part of self-control is not to say qawl zur, not to say false things, because the Prophet said, if you don't to give up false sayings or acting in ignorance, God doesn't need you are giving up your food or drink. See? So it's control, how to use your tongue, what you say, and how you say it. There is also training in controlling yourself to react to provocations. As the prophet said, if one of you starts the morning in fasting or psalm, he should not talk obscenities. Okay, this is a control, what you say. But if someone abuses or fights him, he should respond, I am in psalm, I'm in psalm, I am fasting. So if someone provokes you, abuses you, you tell them, I'm fasting. You do not answer, you do not respond. So this is all training. And I think a leader is confronted many times the situations in which he may want to respond, to get angry. But during Ramadan, he got trained. Now, in Ramadan, a leader learns self-discipline and self-control. Now, the end, a result of this is to reach the balance, because self-control and self-discipline is about a balance, that there is a provocation, there is something pushing you to the other side. You say, no, I will not be pushed. I will stay in the center. Because if we lose this equilibrium in leadership, we lose our leadership. The prophet said that never judge between two people when angry. When you're a leader and two people have a dispute, you are not allowed to enter into solving that dispute when you yourself you're angry. Because when you are angry, if you cannot control your emotions, you are not balanced and you cannot carry out your leadership in the correct way. Again, this concept of balance, self-control is conveyed in the hadith of the Prophet when he said, no, it's the word of Ali, not the Prophet himself. أحبب حبيبك هونا ما عسى أن يكون بغيضك يوما ما وابغض بغيضك هونا ما عسى أن يكون حبيبك يوما ما. When you hate someone, don't hate all the way. Be cautious, be prudent, because one day the one you hate may become your beloved. And also when you love someone, also don't go all the way, don't go to extremes, because one day he may become your enemy. So this is the concept of balance and equilibrium that a leader gets through the training in Ramadan in self-control of emotions and feelings, so that he can have the necessary emotional balance for leadership. Now, again, this concept of emotional balance in leadership was emphasized by Omar ibn al-Khattab. He's one of the great leaders, model leaders that we talk to in history. When he was talking about a leader, he said, قَوِيٌّ مِّن غَيْرِ عُنْفٍ. He's strong but not violent. See, people mistake these two things. Strength is strength of character, strength of making decisions, strength of taking risks, but not violence, abusing people, harming people. So we need to know the balance between strength and violence. Then he said, a leader layinun min ghayri dha'f. A leader is lenient, but he's not weak. A leader is lenient. He will listen. He will help. He will try to adjust, but he's not weak. He shouldn't be someone who's pushed around. And he said, Sakhiyun min ghayr israf. A leader is generous without being extravagant. Again, this concept of finding the equilibrium, the golden mean. He's economical with the resources without being miserly. So the point is, the self-control that we learn in Ramadan carries on into our leadership functions by teaching us how to control our emotions, how to be balanced in dealing with various provocative situations. So that is a lesson. The second lesson or third lesson we get from Ramadan, if we can recapitulate. I said the first lesson in Ramadan for a leader is to see the big vision. The second lesson was about self-control. The third lesson is about stock taking. From time to time, we need to stop and check ourselves and evaluate. Ramadan is a great period for training in this stock taking. As you know, we are slaves of daily routines. Wake up, pray, brush your teeth, have breakfast, go to work, do the same thing at work, come back in the evening, eat, sleep. You see, we have got routines, but these routines revolve around meals. When you look at your daily routine, it goes around meals. So in Ramadan, because of the change in the routines of meals, the activities of daily living do change. You do not eat lunch, you eat breakfast in the evening, and then at night there is salah, you pray, Salatul Tarawih, there is Salatul Qiyam, you spend hours, and there is also what we call itikaf. This is a special activity when you sit in isolation, either in a mosque or your house or any place, sit in isolation to meditate. And this is encouraged a lot in Ramadan, especially in the last 10 days. So this upset of the daily activities gives us a chance to reflect, to stock take. Now, I just want to tell you how strong the daily routines are. Our feeling of hunger is psychological. You will notice somebody will look at the watch and say, oh, it's 12 o'clock. Okay. Oh, then he feels hungry. Actually, you may not need to eat until the end of the day, but the feeling of hunger that most of us get is psychological because of the routine, that we are involved in. But in Ramadan, this routine is broken. The extra prayers at night are spiritually rejuvenating. Again, you are breaking the routine. I'tikaf retreat is also an opportunity to take stock. So by liberating us from the slavery of the routines, we have got a different psychological ambience. In fact, many Muslims feel a feeling of release, freedom, happiness in Ramadan, mainly because they are now free. They are not under the control of the daily routines. So this gives them time to reflect on great and major issues. And when we look through our history, most of the great events took place in the month of Ramadan. I don't want to go into that, but Ramadan is a great. So Ramadan is for stock taking and spiritual rejuvenation. Now, stock taking is necessary for leadership. A leader who stock takes in Ramadan will be a good leader. Now, a leader needs private time for himself and for leadership, because you need private time to sit alone, to evaluate, to forecast, to strategize, to plan. A leader who does not have this time of stock taking and reflecting cannot be a good leader. If a leader who is there only to put out fires cannot be a good leader. That is why the companions of the Prophet, the Sahaba, were forbidden to enter his house until invited, because God wanted to protect leadership time for him. God wanted him to have time alone to be able to reflect, which is necessary for leadership. As Quran says, أيها الذين آمنوا لا تدخلوا بيوت النبي إلا أن يؤذن لكم. Do not enter the houses of the Prophet unless given permission. Now, there is a background to this that I need to give you. When the Prophet was in Mecca, there was a blind man called Ibn Maktoum. The Prophet sat with him and taught him, answered all his questions until the man had no more questions. So he said, can I go and teach others? He said, yes. When the prophet was teaching others, the man followed him and again asked him questions. It's human that, well, I have given you a time. Let me give time to others. He frowned a little bit. And Quran was revealed condemning the prophet for this frowning. Abasa wa tawalla an ja'ahu al-a'ma. He frowned and turned away because the blind man came to him. This verse is great for me. It's one of the proofs that Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam was a true prophet, because this verse was criticizing him. If he wasn't a true prophet, he wouldn't have told us that God sent this verse. By being a true prophet, he did convey it to us. So this is one of the things that really makes my belief in him very firm. He wouldn't have told us. He would have hidden this criticism of himself, but he told us. So the prophet as a leader was 24 hours, 7 days a week available. He couldn't turn away people. But when he was in Medina, he was now leading a great community. He needed privacy that a leader requires. He needed time to take stock, to think, to plan. But he himself could not tell the companions not to come to him. He was too shy to do that. That is why it required the Quran itself to be revealed to discipline the companions, to tell them, to give him privacy, leadership time, to protect this leadership time that is needed for stock taking and reflection. Now, I will go to the last lesson we learned from this great month of Ramadan, and that's the lesson of empathy. Now, a leader must have empathy in order to be a successful leader. It's an essential ingredient of leadership. I need to distinguish two words here: sympathy and empathy. Sympathy means you have got feelings for someone in distress. And this is what most of us have. But empathy is deeper. You're actually in the shoes of the person in distress. You feel their distress yourself. A leader must have empathy for the followers. He must be in their shoes when he's giving them instructions, when he's correcting them, when leading them. He must feel what they feel. This way, he will be a good leader. Now, let us come to Ramadan. When people are hungry and they tell us that they are hungry, we help them. But for most of us, because we never really feel real hunger, as I said at the beginning, the hunger we have is psychological hunger. When you feel hungry at 12 o'clock or at 1 o'clock, that is psychology. There is still enough food and nutrition inside your body to go on until the end of the day or even the next day. You are not in physiological danger. So it's just psychological that you feel this hunger. So most of the time, when people tell us they are hungry and we really collect money, get food, we feed them, it is sympathetic. We feel for them, but it is not empathetic because we really do not know what they are going through. We have not experienced the hunger that they are going through. In Ramadan, we get the opportunity to be taught to feel through empathy, because the rich, they test the real hunger of complete food deprivation over a 12-hour period. So a rich person who has never missed food before, in Ramadan, he or she misses food for 12 hours. They feel the hunger that the poor feel. So then he will fully understand what they are going through, and this, he will be fully empathetic. So this is the great lesson that Ramadan teaches us empathy for the hungry, for the thirsty. In the same way, a leader who goes through Ramadan learns to be empathetic, learns to be in the feet of those, in the shoes of those that he or she is dealing with. And then, in the case of hunger, you can feed those people in need out of love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As Quran says, وَيُطْعِمُونَ الطَّعَامَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ مِسْكِينًا وَيَتِيمًا إِنَّمَا نُطْعِمُكُمْ لِوَجْهِ اللَّهِ لَا نُرِيدُ مِنكُمْ جَزَاءً وَلَا شَكُورًا. This says that we feed the poor and the orphans and the captives for the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We do not need any rewards or gratitude from them, because we really feel their distress. Ramadan has taught us to be empathetic. And this is a lesson that we can carry over from Ramadan to the rest of our life. I would like to stop here. Thank you very much for listening to me. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Hello, Professor.
Naam.
Yeah. So the here one participant is asking the question about your lecture. Like you said that the leadership to be the empathy toward its follower. So nowadays, like they are leading the Trawi here, and suppose that some people ask to reduce the recitation of Quran in the Trawi. So what will be your response on that?
They have to reduce, as simple as that, because the leader should be in the shoes of the followers. If it is difficult aware, we can have a short tarawih for the weaker people and then continue, because there is Salatul Qiyam. You can have tarawih itself shorter so the elderly and the sick can participate. And after that, you can have longer, what we call Salatul Qiyam, Qiyamul Layl, where you can read. We can read more. So we can combine the two aspects, a short tarawih for the week, and then a longer reading for those who have the energy to participate in a longer prayer.
Jazakallah khair. Is there... Yeah, inshallah. Anyone else? Okay, Jazakallah khair, Professor, for your time. May Allah bless you and have good Ramadan.
Okay, thank you very much.
It was a nice to meet with you, and inshallah, we will see you again.
Inshallah, inshallah. Allah yakrimak.
Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalam.